Hi everyone. I wanted to show you today my outdoor maple sap boiling system. I'm using a 3-chambered stainless steel pan, and this is specifically made for evaporating maple sap, and it was graciously donated to me for this season by my neighbor who actually lives just across the river, because she's not here this season, so I get to use all of her stuff. Yay. So right now we're just getting up to a boil. I kind of like to keep it at a bit of a slower boil. A lot of places will tell you to get it to a really rolling, vigorous boil, but if I have the time, I like to keep it a little bit slower because the more roiling it is, the more sugar you'll actually lose in your evaporation. And I want to lose the least amount of sugar that I possibly can. Because this is like 97-98% water as is. So right now it's kind of boiling in this back pan, in this middle pan, and not so much in the front. The fire is pretty evenly distributed because I don't want it to be just in one little corner of the pan. I want it to be as evenly distributed as possible. And with the 3 chambers, I'm able to add more sweet water to one chamber, and it will slowly make its way to the back chambers and distribute itself equally without losing the boil. So it doesn't get cooled down as fast with a 3-chamber system. So you can get these without chambers. So every time you add sap, it kind of slows down the boil a bit. But right now, I don't have that much sap because we just did a first run and it got pretty cold after that. So I have a little bit more than 15 gallons of sweet water here. And peak season is going to be starting this week and next week. So it's March 18th right now in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So yeah, we're pretty close. We were a little bit keen, and we did get some good syrup, and I'm happy I tapped the trees when I did because that first run is really delicious. And so it's just going to be a little bit less of syrup today, but it'll be fun to compare the flavors. And I also have what I like to do. One of my favorite things about maple syrup boiling day is I take some of the sap that's boiled and I start brewing some tea. And this tea is made with some butterfly pea flower, so it looks kind of black, but it's actually blue. And I just keep it there on the cinder block, steeping away, and I pour it off as need be. And that way, when people come and go and check it out, they can always get a cup of really magical tea. And that's, one of my favorite things about this season and this day is because you can have a bonfire and you have the greatest excuse to invite people over, neighbors, friends, anyone, because not everyone gets the chance to experience this. Not everyone has the trees to tap or the equipment to use to do this, and I think sharing that privilege with as many people as possible makes it all the more special, and allowing people to see that there's a lot more stages that maple water goes through before it becomes syrup, and there's a lot of really fun tasting experiences that can happen that aren't maple syrup. There's the sweet water of the beautiful tea and drinking, and you can make lemonade with it, and all of these really fun things that you can do that aren't just syrup. So sharing that is great. Once it gets down lower to about an inch, I'm going to pour it off a little spout over here. I'm going to ask my mom, my cameraman, to come over. There's a little spout, and we'll pour it off into a little pot, and I'll put a grill, like a barbecue grill, over the cinder blocks and keep the fire low and just get it to that finishing off temperature, that perfect maple syrup temperature of 219 degrees Fahrenheit. And when it gets low like this, when it gets to about 215 degrees, you're going to be watching that like a hawk, because if you scald it, if you let even this in this big evaporator pan, if you let this get too low and it scalds, you can ruin your whole entire maple syrup batch. And I have actually lost an entire gallon of maple syrup once because I left the stove on while I took a hike. And I thought I'd turn the stove off, but I didn't, and I came back to a pot of molten lava. It was absolutely unrecognizable. It was black ash at that point. So that 1 gallon of maple syrup was 40 gallons of sap and 2 weeks of work, and yeah, so lesson well learned. I'm not going to do that again, so we're going to be careful. And when I have it to that level, I'll do maybe that last hour or two finishing off on the stove inside, so I can watch it really, really well, and I can keep an eye on my little candy thermometer. Some people will just slowly finish it off out here because they don't want to get any sugar inside, but I like, after that lesson, I want to be really careful. The last thing I'll say is keeping your fire as clean as possible, because if you have a lot of ash, it can billow up and get into your syrup, and that's no good. So try not to do a boil on a windy day unless you have a cover and a evaporation chimney, which you can get. It's just expenses, like extra expenses for all of this. So all of these little things cost a bit, so it's really nice to be able to borrow it if you can. And yeah, other than that, just enjoy the day out here, enjoy the bonfire, enjoy the warmth and the sun, and I will catch you up with another video later that shows the finishing off, so you can see it go from this to a beautiful bottle. So I'll catch you on the flip side of that. Just wanted to show you a close-up of the sap water we have going in here, though you can barely see because it's evaporating so well right now. Just starting to boil a little bit. There's some bubbles appearing. We got this beautiful fire going down there. There's a spout that is available to use if you wanted to hook it up to a bigger system. It's my tea steeping, and here's the spout that comes out of the bottom here to pour off when I no longer have enough to make this efficient. So nice day to just sit out and read and enjoy the river and drink tea and listen to the birds and say hi to the family over there in the big house. Happy boiling your Sweetwater day. Okay, we're back and we're just getting ready to pour off our reduced maple sap into a little pot here. We have been boiling our maple sap since 1 p.m. today, and it is now close to 7, so like almost 6 hours here. And we had started out with just enough maple sap to go up to about halfway in our evaporator pan, and now we're down to about an inch, if not a little bit less than that. So I don't want it to get scorched, so I want to pour it off, and I'm hoping all of this will be able to fit into my one little pot. And the reason that I have this cloth over here, so I have like a little strainer there and then another cloth, is because as everything evaporates, you get something called sugar sand, and it literally feels like river sand, and it's just bits of consolidated minerals that are part of the sap. And I might save them, but there might be some other grody stuff in there too. So this is the first level of filtering, and then there might be another one after this as well once we reduce it again. So I'm gonna turn on my spigot and hope this comes out well. I'm not gonna have my assistant here pour just yet. We're gonna do this slow because I want it to all come down and not reduce. So it's just coming out my spigot, and I cleaned off my spigot with a couple things, but in the future I think I'm gonna cover this with foil so smoke doesn't gather up around it, because it kind of blackens the whole outside of this, and it will blacken this as well. And that's just one more thing you have to worry about filtering out. I have to keep my eye on how much I have in there, but this is just the penultimate moment of maple syruping. There will be our last stage, which will be finishing off this pot, and I'm probably going to wait to do that till tomorrow because it's been a long day and I'm frankly quite exhausted, and I've inhaled a lot of smoke fumes. So next video will be reducing it and finishing off. So thanks for hanging out with me today though.